all week in March, and we have a lot of fun. We bring speakers, the abortion rights, dairy farm, dairy cow, factory farm event that we had, that was during Animal All Week. We had an event where we brought in speakers who were talking about cultivated meat products. There was a bit of a debate with me and one of the speakers because I had some ethical questions with that I won't get into. Really the idea being, if we're trying to get away from viewing animals as meat, food, things, then what are the ethical quandaries of perhaps not killing as many animals, but still killing one and using its body as food? And you can with this technology, you use its cells, you can create this sort of neat product, but should we be concerned about that, or should we be concerned about getting people to just not think about animals as food at all? Even if, one, it's a start, but I think I want to live in a world where animals are not viewed as property, as food at all in that way. I want to live in a society where most people are plant-based, most people are vegan, and then the exception is people who eat animals, like the exception. So completely flipped from what we have now, where the exception is vegan and plant-based and vegetarian perhaps, which I'll get into later. Well, not later, but in another. I have a thought about vegetarianism. I don't think vegans should cast aside vegetarians just so dismissively, because ultimately I know many vegetarians who are ethical vegetarians and they care. And we talked about how cheese has, addictive properties, and I think instead of casting aside people who actually care, and if you had a conversation with them, they would be receptive to what you had to say. If you're so purist that you don't even want to speak to them, then you're isolating someone who really is in this movement with you. There's a whole spectrum, and when we talk about change, say we want to live in a world that's vegan. To get to that place, you still need stakeholders that may not completely align with this idea that non-human and human animals are equal. Personally, that's my belief. Not a lot of people agree with that. So there could be someone who thinks that factory farms should be abolished, for instance, and shut down, but they may still think that humans are superior to animals in some way. They just don't think that animals should be treated the way that they're treated. Though I disagree with that, if there's still 4 factory farms being shut down, I don't think it helps to silence their voices and not want to talk to them, because they're going to be more likely to get on that train where they think that actually humans are superior to non-human animals. But if we just isolate them and castigate them, well then we've lost people who could help. So that was a bit of a tangent, but we do events like that for the Animal Law Society for our week. This is just a picture of a documentary of the Smell of Money movie screening. The Smell of Money is basically a doc about a North Carolina community, mostly comprised of African Americans, again in North Carolina, a rural area, low income, factory farm company called Smithfield Pork Producers. They've come in, they are spraying their hog feces from these lagoons. So in factory farms you have these huge infrastructures, right? But not even speaking to the cruelty of the infrastructure, the horrendous treatment of the animals that go on in the infrastructure. So we're not even talking about the egregiousness of that. Let's just take for a second, let's just think about the lagoons. I wish I had a picture, but about the lagoons. So think there are 2 huge swimming pools, bigger than swimming pools. Think 2 huge football fields of waste outside of these factory farms. In this case, they were factory farms that farmed pigs, that killed pigs and slaughtered pigs and produced pigs, filled with waste. So we're thinking of all of the waste that comes from having hundreds of thousands of hogs in these farms, in cramped quarters. We have pig bodies, carcasses thrown in these lagoons. You have feces, you have urine, you have everything. And then it bakes in the sun for days, for not even days, for as long as it's out there. It's baking in the sun. This is the South, it's hot. It's North Carolina, so it's also humid. So all of this is happening. This these cesspools are just baking in the sun. How do they get rid of this water? How do you get rid of this waste, this sewage, these toxins? Well, what they do is they have these sort of sprinkler systems, and they make sure they connect it underneath. There's sort of like an aquifer system, and they just spray it in the air like it's water. And so just particles of feces, particles of dead bodies, diseased bodies sprayed into the air, and it gets on these human beings. It gets on their homes. They are languishing, dying from just untold rates of living with disease, untold rates of bronchitis, asthma, children getting sick from it, adults dying from leukemia that is tied to the waste. So this is what this documentary is about. And basically, these people were saying, enough is enough. We're sick of this sugar honey, wonderful sugar honey, you know what I mean. We're sick of it. So we're sick of it. And so, yeah, so these people came together. They sued the Smithfield pork producers. They won. But then, right, which is great, they won, right? But then, afterwards, state legislatures came and said, you know what, we can't have this happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that people, let me make sure I'm good on time, we're going to make sure that, we're going to make sure that people who live in communities like this cannot sue again for something like this. We're going to make sure that we're going to make it harder for them to sue. So they have to live with this, because this is a public good. These cesspools are public goods. Never mind the fact that these cesspools, when there was flooding in North Carolina, I think in like 2016, 2017, because of climate change, right? You have hurricanes. What is the cause of climate change? Well, from my calculations, from what I've learned, the second highest cause of climate change, factory farms, animal agriculture. So as a result of that, then you have flooding, and then